Welcome to the Soul Script podcast. Here we explore how to unlock the power of our story. Our journey here on earth can be one of deep passion, intentional creation, and personal transformation. The only thing holding us back is our stories. Come and join me as we rewrite and reignite. Intention. We are continuing our conversation about intention today, and we have just been learning line upon line really good fundamental things to living a intentional, purposeful, creative, passionate life, which I am passionate about. In the very first episode of this Soul Script podcast, I shared about what I would call an awakening into an entirely new world, or maybe not so much a new world, but seeing the world clearer and with a different perspective and with power and authenticity. And I am forever grateful for the awakening that I had into this world. And one of the things that I learned from the beautiful women who helped me step into this space, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, then just go and start at the very beginning. But they were always women of intention, and every single thing that they did oozes intention. We talked about an aspect of intention last time as I was digging up kind of the definition of intention and trying to bring it into reality for us, like a physical plane. We saw two different types of intention. Number one, the first definition was the definition that we kind of think of all the time. It's putting meaning and purpose behind something. And then the second one that I ran into while making the podcast and preparing for it was a definition that is medical. Medical speaking, it is different ways of treating different wounds. And so we kind of dived into wound healing, which I didn't necessarily intend on doing at that time. But wound healing is incredibly fundamental for a beautiful life, a life that propels you forward and that you live intentionally with. And so it was a little bit of a heavy episode, but a necessary episode where I shared my variations of wounds, and hopefully you gleaned some kind of beautiful information that helps you know what kind of intention or healing you need, what tools you need in order to heal these different wounds. Kind of just scratching the surface, honestly, of wound healing. There are so many different modalities to be able to do it, but it was a pleasure to be able to talk about that. Now we're going to back it up and we're going to talk about the first definition that we talked about, essentially putting purpose and meaning into our lives, having intention. So once again, as I was preparing for this podcast, I had more of my own personal aha moments, which is what I would love for you guys to have, are aha moments, and definitely alert your mind and your brain to pick out one or two aha moments from this podcast for yourself. But I love writing these podcasts and sharing this with you because I am what's called, or what I have called, and I don't know if this is a really broad term or not, but an external processor. So in order to process through my emotions, my experiences, and anything that I'm going through, I really have to process it out loud, externally, through journaling or like talking about it. And so having a therapist is really great for me. Doing these videos and I guess podcasts are really great for me because not only am I sharing information with you, but I'm documenting it for myself or for my kids and kind of a family history. And I'm doing the work of processing through these experiences even more. So I'm preparing for this experience and for this podcast and I realized that I want to divide intention in an even bigger way. I want to take our long lens and shoot really far into the distance using intention for big picture, reaching into the future type intention. And then I also want to bring it back down to like a micro scale of intention day to day, and how you can just exude intention like these other women that I met on the retreat and had this awakening with. Today, we're talking big picture intention. And I am not the only person that says that intention and will, preach that intention is so important in your life. I would venture to say, and not that I've confirmed this because I don't know every single religion and belief system and culture, but you find intentionality being a fundamental part of a happy, bountiful life all across the board. One of these voices that's talking about intentional living that I have come into contact with recently, and not personally, but through the Tim Ferriss podcast. And I really love the Tim Ferriss podcast, especially as he personally has kind of shifted from this rigid, he created the 4-hour work week. He's talking about productivity and almost in like a very masculine way, a masculine energy. And when I talk about masculine and feminine, I'm not necessarily talking about male and female. We each have a masculine and a feminine energy within us. Masculine energy is get stuff done, very analytical, very goal-oriented. And then the feminine is that flow and that allowance for life to happen as it needs to happen, and tuning into the intuition rather than necessarily the logic. And we have to have these two things, this masculine and feminine energy, come together to create a more powerful creation. And so I've seen that with Tim Ferriss. He started off with a very masculine energy and then kind of shifted to a feminine energy. Even though he's not a female, I completely understand that and how we can get that confused. But he's talking a lot more about, kind of the mentality behind spirituality without it being spirituality, and how that plays into our performance, which he is such a big proponent of. So on one of his recent podcasts, there was a man called Arthur Brooks, and Arthur Brooks just released a book that he co-wrote with Oprah Winfrey, and I believe it's called The Science of Happiness, The Science of Getting Happier, I believe is what it's called. And he is a Harvard professor that teaches a class on happiness. He, kind of went through this personal experience himself, as many of us do, and we learn from our personal experiences, or we can learn from our personal experiences to then create and find our pathway through this life and find our own magic. How are we going to teach people? What are we sharing with others that's going to be beneficial for them? So he, dealt with depression and dealt with a life that he wasn't happy with. And so he went down the pathway of what is the science of happiness? Kind of that analytical, masculine way of finding happiness. Like scientifically, what are these things in our life that promote happiness? And in his class, he teaches 3 fundamental principles that he believes leads to happiness. And it is more in depth than what I'm going to talk about today, like way more in depth. And if you want to do research on this yourself, please do. But at its basics, the very first principle of happiness that he talks about, in my own words, is quality time spent with people that we love. This doesn't surprise me at all. We have been tribal people since the very beginning, right? No man is an island. We enjoy community. We enjoy being part of something. And then just experiencing life together, having commonality with people that you love and that are there to support you and that you'll know will love you despite your imperfections. Very important. And I love that he has that as one of the principles for happiness. The second one is satisfaction through hard work. Another principle that I really love, essentially getting out of your comfort zone, pushing yourself past the boundaries that you thought existed for you, and achieving something that you worked hard for. It brings so much satisfaction when this happens. Another guy who is a really great voice right now for this specific principle is Michael Seeley, and he has a book called The Comfort Crisis, where he talks about how essentially we have a pandemic of, or at least an epidemic of people who no longer want to get out of their comfort zone and the detriment that it is to us personally and to our society as a whole. And so that's a really good resource as well. If that's calling your name, you're thinking, I need more of that in my life for a more satisfying experience, definitely go check that out as well. It's been a really good resource for me and kind of an eye-opener. And the last principle that Arthur Brooks talks about is he talks about meaning and purpose being a really fundamental part of happiness. Where are you going? What are you doing? Do you have a purpose? Do you add value to this life? And what value do you add to your own life and to the lives of others? And just really having a clear direction. Now, meaning and purpose, we've already established, is the definition of intention. Today, of course, we're talking about intention. And I just wanted to kind of break down that this isn't just me. This is science. This is facts. If I want to talk to your more masculine energy that you have, it is factual. And now we're going to lean in a little bit to this more feminine part of intention. And like I said, you do not have to be female in order to have feminine energy, and you do not have to be feminine in order to have masculine energy. It isn't, both energies are parts that reside within us. So I wanted to speak to both in order to paint a picture for you, which you know I love to do because I personally am a very visual person, a visual learner. I wanted to take you with me to Baja, Mexico, where I traveled with my dad to become a captain. We learned to sail monohulls and catamarans. I had never been on a boat before. No, not a boat, but I had never been on a sailboat before. I'm in Utah. It's landlocked. The only opportunity you have to sail are on relatively small lakes. It is definitely not a big culture here or a big thing, although it does exist. And I wanted to initially go so that I could basically do my due diligence in protecting my family, because one of my dad's main goals was to take me and my family, my kids, out on the Caribbean or the Mediterranean or whatever it might be to sail and have sailing trips. We're overlanders, so we love to be self-sufficient in our vehicles, travel long distances very remotely, and spend time in the middle of nowhere. Well, you can think of sailing as kind of the same principle, only you're on the water instead of the land. It's not overlanding, it's overwatering. I'm just kidding. So he wanted to do this and he wanted to do it with my family. But I thought, well, what if he becomes like incapacitated while we're out there, or, just something happens and nobody else knows how to sail a boat. And obviously I hadn't had any experience. So I thought, I want to go sailing. And of course, I'm totally the type of person that's like, never been on a boat, let's become a captain. Like if we're going to go in, let's go all in. And so we found ourselves in Baja, Mexico, taking a week-long course to get our captain's license. It was a phenomenal experience, and there were great things about it and bad things about it. And we're not going to go into detail about that today, although I would certainly love to tell you all the nitty-gritties of that experience. But while we were there, we learned everything that you needed to know to become a captain and to be able to sail a boat. And this included things like getting out of the marina or, learning the courtesy and the laws and rules of waterways and how to anchor, how to take care of a boat. And then, of course, we spent a ton of time on the actual sailing part where, you're feeling the wind, you are adjusting or trimming your sails according to the wind and the direction you want to go. It was cool because before we went, I was able to have my study information. So we were reading it on the plane as we were traveling there, and I could learn essentially the principles behind sailing. When the wind's coming this direction and you want to go that direction, you have to put your sail at this angle. Here's, the front of the boat is called this. The back of the boat is the stern, like all of these things. But it wasn't until I got there and I was on the boat that I really understood it. And I feel like that's so typical. You can learn the fundamentals of whatever you want, but until you go out and experience it for yourself, you're not actually going to understand it. You might know about it, you might have knowledge about it, but understanding is different. So we get out on the water, and our first day was kind of a mess. Long story short, we had kind of a horrible instructor, and he broke our boat. And so we got very short amount of time to learn how to sail on a monohull. And so we finally get out on the second day for like our real first day of sailing. And we felt the wind. You can close your eyes and you can feel the wind blowing. Is it on your right cheek or is your hair flowing forward or whatever? And of course, there's instruments up top to be able to see wind direction and wind speed. But you had to be out there and you had to feel it. And then you had to look up at your sail, and if it was billowing, it wasn't how you wanted it to be. You weren't utilizing the full power of the wind. So you had to make sure it was taut and in the right angle in order to pick up the power of the wind. Now, I want to go back to intuition. We've talked about intuition upon multiple podcasts. It is really important. And we're talking about intention next because I mentioned that intuition and intention, when mixed together, is when magic happens. And what I mean when magic happens, manifestation happens, life flow happens with beauty towards the life that you want to experience. So if we're comparing this to my experience on a boat, the wind and the swell of the seas and maybe even the boat is our intuition. It's blowing us, it's pushing us, it's this life force energy, this flow. So what are the sails? Well, the sails are trimming the sails, I should say. And trimming the sails means putting it in the right position, with the proper, making it taut or loosening it. Those are, the little micro adjustments we make along the way, whether that's habits or perspectives or clearing out beliefs, that kind of stuff. Those are our little micro adjustments. And our intention at that point is the place where we want to go, right? So we would go out, learn how to trim the sail, and feel where the wind was pushing us naturally. But we had to know the direction that we wanted to go in order to position ourselves to get there. And it was incredible to be on that boat and to feel that when you were with the proper trim, according to the wind, you might be totally stagnant in the water, and then suddenly, so powerfully, you're lurched forward when you just tune it in just right. And it was an incredible feeling. You could feel the power and the flow and the energy. And so we learned how to do this hands-on. Well, if I'm out cruising in the ocean and I have no heading, I don't know where I'm going, I certainly can still feel power. I certainly can tune myself just right to be in that flow and feel and experience all of that. But if I don't have a direction, what is the point of it? Now, I will say that there is totally something about going out and just experiencing sailing. Just having the wind in our faces and feeling that salty sea air, or maybe going out and doing some snorkeling from the boat. But no matter what, you have to know how to get back to your anchor point or the marina. You can't just be out there forever. Well, I mean, I guess you could, and sometimes it feels like that, especially when you have an awakening. You have this information, you're understanding about intuition. You are starting to understand about the information coming to you through the universe. And you could stay in that space. You could stay out there and be like, I'm just flowing and I'm just going wherever the wind takes me. Or you can use that power to get you to the place that you want to go. So you need to have a heading, and this is really important. I grew up in a community, a society, a religion that essentially told me that what I wanted, the intentions that I had, came second to God, or came second to God's intentions for me. It was definitely an experience where I felt like I was being told that God was kind of the dictator of my life. He was in control, and he had kind of a set pathway for me. I had a destiny, and obviously I could make choices towards that destiny that aligned with what he wanted. But he very much had a plan for me. And while I still subscribe somewhat to a sort of destiny, as in you come to this earth and you're created with talents that are just natural for you, and you can utilize those talents in order to bring certain things into this world. I also have had years to ponder on this. I was exposed to individuals and groups of people that were big proponents for manifestation. And manifestation is essentially having an intention and a desire and bringing it onto the physical plane. And you'll see all around the internet ways to manifest and other people's theories. And I think when we kind of combine them all, they all hold a lot of power to do this. Some more power than others. But the whole point of it is that you can desire something and that you can bring that into your life. Now, this doesn't really align with what I had been taught. Like, I can desire something, what I want is okay, even if it's not like explicitly spelled out to me, for me, through God, and that I could create it. I thought God was the creator. And so I felt this dissonance essentially between these two ideas. But somewhere inside of me, there was a truth that felt good, using that intuition of, I think they're right. I think that these ideas that I'm being exposed to about manifestation hold some truth. And so the thought that settled on my brain as I started thinking about manifestation and how it correlated with God and these beliefs that I had the thought, what if God wanted what I wanted? I know that for me, that idea felt uncomfortable because of what I had been taught my whole life. But as I let it sit, as I let this seed be sown and I let it grow, I felt more and more that this was true. That the way God exists is that He is not the captain of your sailboat, your vessel, your body, your life. You are the captain of your vessel, your body, your life. And that God exists as the wind in your sails, as the swells of the sea, as the fish underneath you, as the coral that grows, as the rocks in the way, as the islands that you sail by, the sunset that you watch set over the ocean. And I think probably most importantly, He is a trusted crewmate on your vessel that sails with you wherever you decide to go, whatever your heading is. What does your life look like when God is not the dictator, but He is the supporter? That completely changes how you move forward. I think something that we can do to kind of shift our ideas around this is to question the things that come up for us. Ask ourselves questions like, what if what I want is worthwhile? What if what I want is important? Now, I realize that not everybody subscribes to an idea of God, or maybe your idea of God is different than my idea of God. Maybe it looks like the universe supporting you, just a common life force energy. But it's undeniable that we have experiences in our life that limit our ideas of who we can become, what we can do, but not only that, what it's okay to become, how it's okay to think. And so when you sit there and you think about, ponder on these big, audacious goals that you have, and you think, what voices are coming up for me that tell me that I can't do this, we can go in and we can question those and decide if they're serving us. So for instance, maybe your mom told you that you really are not a good reader. And so then therefore you decided not to go to college and get your doctorate degree. Maybe you have heard so many things about rich people and how snobby they are that you decide you're not going to be rich because you don't want to be snobby. You want to be humble and you want to relate to people. So whether or not you subscribe to a God, that was my personal experience and my personal limitation, is I felt that my wants and desires were second to God's, but there's so many different beliefs that hold you back from obtaining your highest and best self. A lot of it has to do with worthiness, or a lot of it has to do with right or wrong. But in reality, you guys, what you want is important. The big things are important and the little tiny things are important. And it's not based around what you're going to contribute to this world. It's not like, is what I want a worthy thing? Is it the right thing? Am I blessing the world with this, that, or the other? I definitely think choosing to carry on your privileges and your blessings to other people is beautiful and something that we should do. But you are here, in my belief, to experience all of life. The good, the bad, the happy, the sad, the joy, the sorrow. You get to experience all of this. And I feel with every fiber of my being that everybody gets to experience this. Everybody has the potential to experience a full, bountiful life, one of passion. But I am told on a very regular basis that you don't follow your passions. You follow the things that make logical sense. Let's reel it in here. Let's think realistically. No, throw that out the window. Throw every single thing that anybody has ever put on you as a limitation out the window. You can experience the things that you desire for the sake of experiencing them. End of sentence. That's it. I literally want you to just put your hands to your chest, and I want you to just act like you're grabbing everything from your heart, and I want you to pull it out, and I want you to chuck it, and I want you to put your hands to your head, and I want you to pull it out. All the beliefs, everything that's not serving you anymore, and I want you to chuck it. I want you to pull it from your beliefs, from your brain, from your cells, from your DNA, and start over again. Give yourself a fighting chance to reach the place that you have always wanted to be, the place that you feel passionate about. You, my friend, have just rewritten a portion of your story, which we talk about in this podcast all the time. You just went back and decided, I'm going to erase this belief that somebody else gave to me or I picked up because of experiences that I've had, and you just erased them. And now you get to decide what you write down. I choose now to believe that I can be filthy rich and I can be humble as well. Whoever says that rich people equal snobs is full of baloney. I know so many rich people who are not snobs and who are humble, and that you would almost never know that they're rolling in oodles and oodles and oodles of dough. Those who are in Utah have probably heard of Thanksgiving Point and how much it has expanded and grown and how successful it all is. Well, those owners of Thanksgiving Point were in the neighborhood of my husband's parents, and we lived in that neighborhood for a time. And you saw them at church, and they were beautiful and kind and gracious. And guess what? Because of their success and because of their riches, how much more can they bless the people around them? If you are only obtaining your bare needs, how can you help others? What good does that do for anybody, for you or for your loved ones? It is okay to have your needs met and desire for those needs to be met. And it is okay for you to have your wildest dreams come to fruition. That is okay. So I invite you to challenge every single belief that you have when it comes to intention, when it comes to your life being everything that you ever wanted it to be. Please do that for me. Do it for you. Don't do it for me. Do it for you. Like I mentioned before, these desires, your intentions are important. The big ones and the itsy bitsy tiny ones. Now, I have spent the majority of my adult life putting together vision boards. And I really think that vision boards are an incredible tool to setting intention. At the base level, you are taking time to think about what you want and writing it down, or you're finding visuals of the things that you want. And then you have a daily reminder, or however often you look at your vision board, to make sure that you're not deviating off course. And then you have the visuals, and you can see it, you can think it, you could almost feel it. And these are really important parts of manifestation. Thinking it, feeling it, seeing it are incredible. Well, I actually don't currently have a vision board, which is a little crazy for me because I have had one for so long. But I feel like over time, I have just become pretty darn good at knowing what my intentions are and walking myself through seeing them, feeling them, and experiencing them and pulling them into my life, that I no longer need that vision board, at least at this time in my life. But it has been a valuable tool. So there was one time when I sat down, usually at the beginning of the new year, just like most people, I make some intentions for the year. Although, totally side note, I have more recently started this tradition in the springtime when we're starting to plant the seeds and sow the seeds all around us. I think it's a much better time to kind of go with the flow of nature. In the middle of winter, in the darkness, at least here in North America, I don't know if it's necessarily the best time to start planting seeds and start, reevaluating your life. It's a time to cozy up and be internal. Maybe it's the beginnings, the stirrings of what you want to do. But previously, I would do this around the new year. And of course, I had like huge goals on there, huge intentions, like I want to be a millionaire and I want to do this with my business and I want to have this experience. And all of these were really distant, far off, audacious goals. And then there was one that was seemingly silly. I think most people would argue it was silly. And why do you even want that? What is that going to benefit you in life? But guess what? I just wanted it to experience it. And remember, that's okay. Your experiences, just for the sake of experience, are fine. So I wanted the experience of being a regular someplace. I wanted to walk in, hear that little, bell at the door alerting the employees that somebody had walked in, and they look up and they see me, they give me a smile and they're like, "Hey Laura, you're just getting the usual today?" And I would be, "Yeah, just give me my usual." Or maybe one day I would switch it up and throw them through a loop and just be like, "Actually, I'm going to get something different today." And I don't know why, but that was an experience that I wanted. And honestly, a pretty hard experience for me to obtain, because I just by nature am somebody who loves variety. And so I hardly ever eat at the same place on a regular basis. And I hardly ever visit the same places on a regular basis. I'm like a crazy person, and I won't even shop at the same grocery store all the time if I have to, because I just want variety for the sake of variety. So I set this intention realizing that this was going to be hard. And I thought, well, maybe the Thai place down the road. Like, I love eating Thai. So maybe on a regular basis, I'll make it a goal to go and get some Thai food. And they're going to be like, "Oh, hey, Lara, you want your yellow curry?" And I'd be like, "Yo, homie, yeah, I do." And don't forget the mango sticky rice. Cannot forget that. Well, I didn't visit there very regularly because it's just against my nature, I guess. But there was a place that I did visit very frequently. My pharmacy. That year I had pretty poor health. And so I very regularly visit the pharmacy for prescriptions. And there was one day I walked up to the counter and the pharmacist said, "Hey, Laura." I was kind of caught off guard, like, "Oh, you know my name?" And she's like, "I've got your thyroid meds for you. You want me to grab them?" Yes, I do. Will you please go grab my usual medications? And I realized right there and then that I had completed that manifestation. It had come to me, and it was not the way I wanted it to come to me. I didn't want to be so sick that year that the pharmacist knew my name and knew my regular medication. And I learned right then and there that you get really specific with your intentions, and the more specific you are, the better. You don't just say, "I'm setting a course to go north," because north is a big place. You find those specific coordinates, you get your longitude and your latitude, you mark it on a map, and you go exactly to that longitude and latitude. I learned the lesson of specificity that day. And you know what? I'm not sad that I learned it then and there with that goal. It was a really small goal, a really small intention that really didn't impact me that much. It was also kind of perfect timing for me to learn this lesson of specificity, because the next thing that I wanted to manifest in my life was a lot bigger than this. It was a new home. We had been in our home for almost 8 years. We, of course, wanted it originally to be a 5-year home. It was a perfect starter home, especially as our kids were really little. But now my husband and I were both working from home. He was in the master bedroom. He would get on a call and I'd have to sneak under the camera and into the bathroom so that I could shower or get ready. And I was working in the main living area, which was seemingly impossible because of my kids and the thousands of questions they asked me throughout the day as I was trying to work. And they were sharing bedrooms, and the bedrooms were tiny. You get it. It was just getting small. And so we both really wanted a new home, one that would fit our needs, but also our desires. Of course, because our desires are important too. And so I started writing down these things that I wanted within our home. And, I had a budget. We can afford this much, and we want a 3-car garage and at least this many bedrooms, and, the integrity of the structure of the home. But then I even went farther, and I love to include feelings. What do you want to feel when you walk through that door? Do you want it to be cozy and homey? Do you want it to be rustic? Do you want it to be really artsy fartsy? Whatever it is, what is the feeling that you want to have? Also, feelings of love and joy. What kind of experiences did I want to have in that home? Did I want to be able to host people? Did I want to be able to have game nights and backyard parties? And would the neighborhood kids come over, and my kids would, often invite them to play, and I could be more involved in my kids' lives and their friends. I mean, we're talking very specific. What are my neighbors like? What are the schools like? Getting everywhere from feelings to looks to, set number of bedrooms. And I wrote this all down, every single detail. And you best believe I got real specific. Now, we are a captain of our boat. We get to decide our heading. But what can we not control? We cannot control the weather. We cannot control the wind or the currents of the water. We can't control where the land is. We can't control the coral reefs under the boat that could potentially sink us. That is not our job. Our job is to have a heading, be very specific about the longitude and latitude of that heading. The rest is up to the universe. The rest is up to God, the flow, the energy of life. And so one thing that I didn't do when writing the house manifestation is that I didn't decide an exact location. We set boundaries, like within this time frame, within this far from an airport. And then we didn't, set an exact time of when it had to happen. We were okay with being in our house for 12 years or maybe 3 months. We also didn't set how it happened. And this is really, really important, is surrender. This is an aspect of surrender. And this is where the intuition comes in, the flow of life comes in. When I pair my intention with utilizing the wind and the water, I can follow the best course to get me there. And sometimes that course looks like not a direct course at all. Like, for instance, if you're heading straight into the wind when you're sailing, it's called a no sail zone. You can't. You'll just stop and have no progression forward. So what you have to do is you have to go at a zigzag, and it's called jibing. And you go, to a sharp degree headed towards the destination-ish at an angle, and then you head to the exact opposite degree. And you just kind of zigzag until you get to your destination. And sometimes that's what it feels like when you're trying to manifest something. It doesn't always feel like you're going straight there, and you don't necessarily have control over how long it takes you to get there. Do you have good winds? Do you have bad winds? Whatever it may be, it is out of your control, and the more you try to control it, the more you're fighting against it, and the more you're going to stall out, especially when it comes to your energy. Conserve your energy, go with the best flow. That doesn't mean easiest flow. That means the best flow. Because, the easiest flow would be heading the exact opposite of the wind, right? And that would probably be the exact opposite of where you want to go. So we're in the process of actively searching for a house. We've let go of, some of these expectations, and we have surrendered. And it's not long before we find a home. And this home was exactly what we wanted it to be, as in it checked off all of the boxes on our list. And we walked the house and we're like, oh, well, it has this, great. It has this, great. It's got that, great. It's checking off all of the boxes on the list. And we left that home and we were like, I don't know. It just is kind of meh. I just feel meh about it. Like, how come it's everything that I ever wanted it to be, and I just feel meh about it? The cool thing about that specific experience of finding the thing and reaching the thing that I always thought I wanted and just feeling meh about it is that maybe sometimes the destination that we thought we wanted to get to was actually not that important. We left there knowing that we walked away from everything we ever thought we wanted, and that we were okay. We walked away from that experience knowing that if we never left our house, if nothing ever changed, we would still be happy. And I think that is an important key to manifestation, is it shouldn't be, I won't be happy unless. It should be, I will be happy, and this is a wonderful, beautiful experience that I get to have. It doesn't change me. It doesn't change who I am fundamentally. Getting to a spot where you know that you are happy no matter what happens, no matter how lavish or horrible your life is, you can find internal happiness. That is the best kind of manifestation. The one where it doesn't matter if you have it or not, but that it will add to the experience of life. So there we were. We had everything we ever thought we wanted, and we were walking away from it. And it was like the next day that we found our house, the house that we are in now. And I know that you know it had everything we ever wanted it to have. And you know that I was willing to wait for it. I didn't care how long it took me. I was ready to have everything that I ever thought I wanted. And I also was ready to totally let go of it if needed. But it came to us. And you best believe that there were so many things out of our control where it was like the timing was right. There were people who backed out of it. I saw the listing at the right time, and our realtor was able to do this, that, or the other. And we had to kind of look through things and go a direction that we never thought we would go in order to get it. There were things totally out of our control, but it all fell into place exactly as it needed to. And we love it here. It is everything that we ever wanted it to be. The experiences that we have in our home are beautiful, and I do feel happy here. Although I think I could have also been happy at the house that I was previously at. The last thing that I want to share with you about intention is another form of surrender. And this is when you're on course to a destination that you have always wanted, and you come upon a destination that you didn't know existed, but is better than the one that you originally wanted. And when we release this and we know that there's an external power that understands, hey, I love that you love this and I want to support you in this. And guess what? I see something even better. Holy cow, isn't that great? But sometimes we have our heart set on this one specific destination that we don't even see that other beautiful beach passing us by. And we don't make that detour over to it to see if this is in fact better than the other beach that we wanted to get to. So let's summarize what we have talked about today, because we've talked a lot about intention. We know that intention is important, that there are scientific facts out there that tell us that being intentional adds to our happiness, which is fantastic. We know that intuition is important, but intuition without intention makes us feel a flow of energy and power, but it doesn't actually help us to get to someplace unless we have a destination in mind. We know that, or at least I know, and I hope that you know at some point, whether it's now or later, that what you want is important. It's valid. You are worthy of it, even the small things. We also know that being really specific about our intentions is important. We're not just going to go north, but we're going to go to a specific longitude and latitude. And then I would like to argue that one of the most important parts about intention is surrender. Being specific and then releasing the how and when of our specificity, allowing ourselves to be guided and directed to places that maybe we didn't know we wanted to go. And then knowing that reaching our quote unquote destination will not change us fundamentally, but that we can be happy exactly where we're at. And that destination or those experiences just add to the experience of life. I leave you with all that today to just ponder, just let it sit in there. You don't have to understand it right now. I don't expect you to understand it right now. You're just gaining the knowledge. You're planting the seed. You're going to let it grow. And hopefully you're going to go out and experiment and learn for yourself what this is like for you and reach an understanding of these principles that I've shared with you today. As always, this is my experience with it. Your experience might be different, And I would love for you to go out and experience a whole new aspect of intention. This is how I have experienced it. And I hope that you go out and experience it for yourself and learn for yourself a whole new world, a whole new beautiful way of living. Next time, we're going to talk about the little teeny tiny daily aspects of intention and how it can affect your life, because it is amazing and wonderful, and I cannot wait to share it with you. So tune in on the next episode for that. Once again, if you have gone into this episode and you're wondering what I'm talking about as far as intuition goes and having a spiritual or awakening, if that's what we want to call it, go back and revisit the previous podcasts to familiarize yourself with it. I really hope that you learned something and that you are willing to rewrite your story and reignite and live a beautiful, intentional, purposeful life. Have I said that enough? Maybe. Sorry if that's getting on your nerves. I've said it a lot. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you next time. Thank you so much for joining me on this transformative journey today. If you found this episode inspiring and thought-provoking, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and share with someone in your life who's ready to embrace their own hero's journey. Speaking of transformation, if you're looking for personalized guidance to rewrite your life's narrative and ignite your true potential, be sure to explore our one-on-one transformation coaching services at soulscriptstudio.com. Your support makes a world of difference. Until next time, keep rewriting and reigniting your story.